I felt broken growing up. Would study as hard as I can, still not get good grades despite studying for 2 or 3 times longer than all of my friends. I was always the first one to make mistakes, and I kind of grew up with this feeling that something was wrong with me. Something in my brain just didn't work the same as everybody else, and not in some cool special way. It was more in a frustrating way where things that seemed easy for other people felt really hard to me. Simple tasks like getting out of bed, remembering simple deadlines that nobody else seemed to have to write down or remind themselves 1,000 times. That dysfunction in my brain brought a lot of shame when I was younger. It took 20 years for me to get diagnosed with ADHD. I don't present as hyperactive. You're not around me and you're like, oh, it's like the girl with so much energy with a bunch of mood swings. You don't think that. I'm actually pretty quiet, but that hyperactivity is going on in my brain. That is the hyperactivity for me. And that results in me kind of being tired all the time. I didn't know that having a million thoughts all the time wasn't normal. Having that inner monologue always there all the time wasn't normal. I couldn't figure out why I couldn't remember or follow directions. It felt like I didn't get the memo in a lot of ways, like things that other people just knew, especially in social situations, for like regular social cues or studying or whatever, things that people just seem to know, I just could never figure out. And so this video is for everybody who maybe you think you have it, maybe you just got diagnosed pretty late in life and you're dealing with this shame and self-esteem. You just want to know, like, okay, I have this brain and I want more advice than just buy a planner. I can't tell you the amount of stupid advice I've gotten from people before I went and got diagnosed and started getting treatment, which we'll talk about later. You don't need it, but we'll talk about like the pros and cons of that. But these, I've literally written them all down in like the last 10 minutes. This is everything that I wish as soon as I got diagnosed, or honestly, even before I got diagnosed, like at age 15, somebody like grabbed me by the shoulders and said these things to me, because it would have meant a lot in terms of unlearning that I was not stupid. I just needed to work in a different way. And so tip number 1, stop listening to your friend's advice if they don't have ADHD. This comes to studying, anything organizational, any tips on how to run your life smoothly. If it's not coming from somebody with ADHD who has a similar brain to you, don't take it to heart. I would always ask my friends, I'm like, how did you guys study for the exam? I've studied all night and I don't remember anything and I'm not getting it. I'm not getting good grades. And they'd be like, oh, I just take notes and I highlight things and I read before the exam. Cool, okay. I do the same thing. I do even worse. Stop listening to everybody around you and don't feel ashamed that it takes you like 2 to 3 times to study or just to do normal things as another person. We'll get into accepting that and everything, but stop listening to that advice. If you want specifically kind of like my note-taking system, how I studied for school, I had a 2.0 my freshman year of college. This was before I got diagnosed, and now I have a 3.8. That's a pretty big jump there, and it's because I gave up on listening to anybody else. I'm talking school advisors, I'm talking, you know, my close friends who have really good grades. I just ignored all of them, and I really had to hunker down and figure out what works for me and not other people in terms of remembering material and doing well on exams. So if you want a video about that, just comment below. I can make a whole video on how I study for school specifically, but this is gonna kind of be an all-encompassing video on how to manage ADHD. That's more than just buying a planner. But step number 1 is stop listening to them. Stop it. I've been told I'll just be cured through meditation, you know, I should just work harder, I was lazy, and none of those things are true. And I know that now. But it took a really, really long time to get out of how other people are seeing me in terms of, oh, this is something easy for me, I don't know why you can do it, and just like, you know what, they're not me. They're not me. They haven't grown up with what I've grown up with. They have no idea what I'm dealing with. Ignore those people. I'm like, I want to grab you by the shoulders and say that to you. Stop listening. I don't care if it's your parents or anybody in your family, your friends who get good grades, if they don't have ADHD and they aren't thriving with ADHD, do not listen to them. I'm telling you right now, because give up on that. You're gonna be way more efficient and way more happy if you just listen to your own gut instinct, which we've learned to never listen to. Step number 2, realize that your brain is interest driven. Obviously, yes, Anjali, like, I know, like, everyone tells me I'm lazy. I don't really want to do anything that everybody else wants to do. Like, I know, I just want dopamine. And no, it's more than that. It's not just this dopamine doom scrolling stereotype that has been linked to ADHD. It's so much more than that. Interest driven. I'll give you an example. Before I got medicated for ADHD, couldn't sit down and do the work. I'd have all of the work around me. I'd have my laptop there. I'm in the perfect area. I have like my coffee next to me. I have the list of tasks that I need to do. I know how to do them. The organization is not an issue. And I sit down and I hear a small voice like way across the room, or like a pin dropping, and my brain would just hyper fixate on that sound, and suddenly the words in the paper made no sense anymore. And I can't tell you how frustrating of a feeling that is, to have the energy to want to do well in life and to want to be ambitious and career driven and reliable as a human being, and sitting down and not being able to. It's like no matter what I would do, my brain just couldn't wake up in that way, and that is a horrible feeling, and I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy, because it's just, you feel shameful, you feel like it's your fault because everybody else can do something that you can't. But I promise you, you're not alone in that, and things do get better. But when I say interest driven, I mean I can sit down and edit a video for 5 hours on end. I'll forget to eat, I'll forget to drink, I'm not replying to any text, my phone can be right next to me, I'm not going on my phone. Because I'm so interested in what I'm doing. I'm so interested in, editing my vlog and making something cool, because I'm just a creative person. So that's something that's easy for me to do. But something hard for me to do is a homework assignment. I'm trying to just put this in terms of like my target audience knows, like homework assignments or just general tedious detail-oriented things that I don't thrive at doing. How do you take that same energy that you get from doing creative things or just things that you're super interested in, and how do you direct that to things that you don't want to do? You need to order things, not by doing the big task first or the small task first, whatever that system is that neurotypical people preach. You need to orient your tasks by time urgency. So the classic ADHD stereotype, which is kind of true. It's like, okay, you'll wait till the very last minute to do something, and then you'll do it all in one night. It can work, but it's not feasible, it's not sustainable, it's not healthy for you whatsoever, and probably your work isn't gonna be as good as if you split it up over a number of days. So what you're going to do, and you can do something with this like my assignment tracker or just your tasks in general, do the stuff that is due first. Do the stuff that is due first. That's it. It's so tempting to just go and do the task that you're most interested in doing, but your brain responds to that time urgency, okay? So instead of working on that cool project that's due in like 2 months that I'd rather be doing instead of this stupid homework that's in front of me, it's due tomorrow, so I have to do the one that's right in front of me. And it kind of prevents that cycle of doing tasks that are productive but aren't actually doing what you need to do. Like when I would clean my room, deep clean, organize everything, and I have like a 5-page paper that's due the next day, but I still feel productive. I'm still getting that dopamine because it feels like a productive thing to do. If you know what I'm talking about, you need to go with time urgency. Don't get a planner. I'm telling you, do not get a planner. The only tools that you need are Google Calendar and Google Excel sheets. That's all I use. My school has a thing where you can import your schedule into Google Calendar so I can see exactly what I have when, but I also use it for things like I have to go to the gym. So I schedule in my gym, I make it repeat at the same time every week, and then I move things around if I know my week's gonna get crazy. Another thing you can do is, this is for college students especially. If you are in college, we need help as soon as we start struggling with something. If we put it off, we're never going to do it. We're never gonna force ourselves to go get help. We're gonna struggle, we're gonna fail. What you can do, I made on my Google Calendar, and I can make another video about this. I have one calendar, I just press the check mark box, and it opens up every single office hours / review sessions that is going on in the week. And at my school, the review sessions and the SI sessions are at the same time every week. Same with the office hours. If something moves around, I can always change it on the calendar. But let's say I'm struggling with the homework, and immediately I know I'm like, ugh, I need to like ask something about this. Immediately I can go to my calendar, press that checkmark box, and I can see the soonest time of when I can get help. Another thing I used to do, I would schedule, we have review sessions every week for certain classes, and the ones that I needed help with the most in those classes, I would schedule it in repeating every week. So even if I didn't go, it was still on my calendar. Just to get myself in the habit of, hey, remember that thing you're struggling with? It's on there, you can't avoid it. I'm telling you, that's all you need to do. And you need to schedule things as soon as you hear about them. Do not, I swear to God, don't tell yourself that you're going to be able to remember it, and then because you're gonna forget it. you're just gonna forget it, okay? And it's fine. Like, I've been there. I still do that, you know? And it's like you're just pushing off something that could take 2 seconds, but I'm telling you, if you have a social event, if you have a meeting, oh my God, meetings, please just schedule it in your Google Calendar as soon as you hear about it. And what I have on my MacBook is I always have my calendar and my assignment tracker open in the 2 tabs. So there's always the first 2 tabs because inevitably when I get bored of class and I start scrolling on my laptop, they're always open. So I'm constantly looking at those. To the point where, okay, maybe I don't have to check it every 2 seconds, but I have an idea of what my routine is. You need to schedule in when you're gonna study. I call these deep block periods, and you need to make sure that those are in a place where there is no sound or like whatever you need. It needs to be perfect. You need to have high efficiency in that block. Whatever, you know, background, if you need to have some background noise, whatever, get that done and schedule that in. And that's gonna be like your high efficiency deep work time. Like if I have a certain meeting and I kind of forgot what the meeting was about or what I should have prepared, I type that in the description of the event so I always know, or I put in the location of that event. So if I have a review session and I'm like, oh, I don't wanna go check where it is, I'm trying to get myself not to go, right? It's in my calendar already. As soon as I heard about it, I scheduled it, I put in the location to make it as easy for myself as possible to go and receive help. Those systems that you make, they need to be oriented in a way to your brain that makes sense. So I'm not saying go above and beyond and schedule every minute of every day. Don't do that at all. Just schedule the actual events. So just schedule like classes, your gym. I struggle to get my meals in on medication, so I have to schedule in my lunches. But don't try and do like what people try to do in Google Calendar, which is like organizing every minute of every day. You're not gonna follow it. Don't be stupid. If you have ADHD, you're definitely like a go with the flow more type of person in terms of things change. Maybe I decide to go study with a friend. Like, things can change. So leave blank spaces in between events. You're just gonna use it for reoccurring stuff and special events that you know that you're not gonna remember in your head, which is probably all of them. Accept that things feel harder. This is not gonna change for the rest of your life, okay? Like, it's the sad truth. You know, we're sticking together, whatever, but it's not gonna change. I have to accept that I can sometimes work and study 2 or 3 times as hard as somebody else, like who's probably neurotypical, and I will maybe get a lower grade. And I have to accept that. You have to accept that hard work doesn't necessarily always correlate to success like it seems to do for other people. And the way to cope with this is just asking yourself, if you, in your heart, if you know that what you've done is your absolute best. If I get an 83 on a test, or if I get like a C on a test, but I know I prepped my absolute hardest and did what I could do, I'm okay with that. But you need to stop setting yourself up with these unrealistic goals, which you're just inevitably not going to attain and get disappointed. I'm not saying don't shoot for straight A's, but what I'm saying is don't shame yourself if you see other people doing something that you consider for yourself to be difficult. If other people, they can just have it click and they can just not really do anything and remember things, whatever, like that's them, okay? Because what you know and what most people don't know how to do is the art of having an actual work ethic and knowing how to work hard and having these organizational skills. That somebody with a brain who just gets everything all the time, when they come across something and they don't get it, they don't know how to work hard like we do to learn something. And that's a really valuable skill, and that's something you should be proud of. And I'm not gonna lie and say that I feel that way all the time. I have plenty of days where I'm like, I would do anything to just have it click in my head like other people do. Don't set yourself up with that. There's a lot of really cool things about your brain, which we'll get into, but you're gonna have hard days. You're gonna feel like something is wrong with you. Your brain is broken, and why can't I just be like everyone else? But you know what? Truth is, you're not. And so you can either feel bad about it, or you can just approach things in a way that makes sense to your brain, and you can do the same thing. If you have ADHD, you can do anything if you want to, because your brain is interest-oriented. You can do what you want to. And I'm not talking about liking the idea of something that you actually want. I really liked being a creator, posting on Instagram. That's how I've been able to consistently post on Instagram and TikTok. And now I'm getting back into YouTube for the last 4 years, when everybody in my life has told me that consistency is not my game. Why? Because I just liked doing it. I wanted to do it. Truly, truly wanted. Not just the idea, but I really wanted to do it. I really liked making stuff. Don't listen to other people tell you that you are not good with consistency, you're not good with this and that. You determine that for yourself. You make things interesting for yourself and accept that you can work as hard as you possibly can, and somebody neurotypical may just be able to do that easier. Tough break, whatever, move on. Tip 5, consider treatment/medication. So I was told in high school from my pediatrician that she thinks that I might have ADHD, and I was kind of brainwashed at this time, and I'm in South Asian culture, so I said, oh no, like, I don't need a pill. I don't want to be dependent and addicted to a pill and like have to take a pill to be myself, like, this like self-righteous whatever. And if you don't want to, totally fine, okay? And then I struggled. I struggled so hard, especially transitioning to college. I went from high school where it was like, okay, I went to the same 7 classes every day, and then I went to a sport, and then somebody drove me home, and then my mom made me dinner, she would make me fruit, and I would study and go to bed. And then you go to college, and you're like, oh, I have to time out when I want to have meals, and I have to go to the gym, and I need a social life, and I need to carve out time to study, and I need to go to class, and I'm going through an identity crisis, and like there's so much more that you have to kind of think about, and that executive functioning for me just fell super short, and that's what happened my freshman year. When I got that 2.0, I just had a horrible time transitioning. I crashed and burned. There is hope, okay? I can't stress how much getting medicated, and I hate to say it because I know to people this can sound like, oh, like you're just dependent on a pill. I don't want to be like that. Ignore everybody else for a second and let me share with you my experience. And I said this in the Sammy Tracker video, but all medication allows me to do is to do the thing. I can sit down every day and I can have the task laid out and I can just do it. I don't have to be in perfect conditions. I don't have to go in loopholes and try to have the perfect study session. I can just sit down and do it. That's all it does. It doesn't change my personality. It doesn't make me easier to be around. It doesn't make me harder to be around. It just lets me like do stuff every day. And you can have the best systems in the world, but if you can't sit down to do that every single day, and again, I was meditating, I was doing everything, I was a self-improvement junkie for a bit, and none of it worked. Because at the end of the day, my brain needed a stimulant because our brains are understimulated in the places of executive functioning. And once I got that prescription for myself and I started going to therapy and I developed coping mechanisms, things got so much better. And you almost go through a grieving period for a little bit because you realize that people just think like that, and you haven't been thinking like that your whole life, and you've been believing that there's something wrong with your willpower when it's really just your brain. Like, it's just how it is. So I'm not saying, hey, like, go pop a bunch of pills, go take Adderall from your friend, whatever. I'm not even on Adderall, I'm on Ritalin, and there's like a billion different medications, which I didn't even know. I thought it was just kind of like Adderall and that's it, and that kind of pushed me away from things. But I take it at the beginning of the day, it lasts for 12 hours. I don't even think about it, I don't even remember to take it a lot of days, and it's totally fine. And I can just do work during the day, that's it. That's all that it does. Obviously there is like side effects like appetite suppressant, but I've kind of learned my way around those. If you guys wanted me to explain it in a different video, but consider it, okay? Because getting medication, I got it behind my family's back at first. I didn't really tell them until I got it, and I got therapy covered by my insurance, and then I told my parents about it because I need to go out of the way to do something for myself, and finally not believe that everybody else was right and that I was wrong, and that maybe for once I deserve to feel better. And I'm not addicted to these pills. Like, I forget to take them. I don't take them for weeks at a time when I'm on break if I don't really have much to do. I just kind of take it when I'm at school here and there, but I wouldn't say I'm dependent on it whatsoever. But it has made my life a lot easier. So consider it. I'm not pressuring you to go take a pill, whatever. But in order to function in Western society and in your career, you kind of need the ability to be able to do really tedious, boring things on a daily basis. And for me, that was schoolwork. Everything else I could do on my own. And if you don't do it every day, it's gonna build up, you're gonna get overwhelmed, you're gonna do your avoidance thing where you just say, you know what, I'm not gonna do any of it, and then now that's a problem, right? And you can't function like that as an adult. So that's all I'm saying. And I'm gonna give you one more, and that is limit doom scrolling. I don't think that phones are giving people ADHD. I don't think that is necessarily there. I do think that it's shortening our attention span. And unfortunately for the ADHD brain, which loves dopamine, it is quite literally the worst thing to have is a phone. In class, like, I can't tell you in lecture how many times like people's MacBooks and phone noises, if somebody has a vibrate on, I can't focus my whole exam, how much those things distract me already from other people. And it's interesting I say that because I'm a creator and I post online, and so it's kind of ironic that I'm saying don't be online. but really, really, really try to limit it, especially in the mornings. When you wake up, don't go on your phone. I'm begging you, get a physical alarm clock if you need to, but use the beginning of the day to kind of set the tone for the rest of the day. Because if you start out getting up and scrolling, your brain is going to be, and we are already so susceptible to that as ADHD people. We can't be looking at the phone. We can't afford to do that, okay? We can't afford to like have these things that normal people can have. You can't have ADHD and also have a full internet addiction. And like, this is coming from me, and I post on YouTube and all of these things, but I make sure that I'm trying to create more than I consume, which goes up and down sometimes. But internet addiction can so exaggerate your ADHD symptoms already. You need to get up normal time. This is coming from me. I get up at like 12 on break because I'm just so burnt out, but I'm really trying to get up earlier because that beginning tone of the day is gonna set it off for the rest of the day, set it up for success. I struggle with getting out of bed in the morning because I just am always sleepy because of my brain all the time. And so what I have to do is I have to set out my clothes and my makeup and everything I could possibly need for that day. My things need to be charged. I need to make it as easy as possible for me to get out of bed and go on with my day. And so you need to have this rule of least resistance. That's what I call it. This is my final tip, least resistance. So having your systems be time urgent, or having your systems be interest oriented, because if we want to do something, we will do it. That's our superpower as people with ADHD. The rule of least resistance is I'm more likely to do things if it's easier to do them. Right? So the example I just gave you of getting up in the morning, it's easier for me to get up knowing that my clothes are already set out and everything I need for the day is already set up for me and done, right? That is rule of least resistance. If I didn't choose my clothes for the next day, if I didn't lay out everything I needed to, it's like, okay, I have to get out of bed and I have to like go and choose things and I have to figure this out and that doesn't help. So you need to take as much brain space out of here as you can so you can actually remember and do important things, okay? So tedious things like, what am I gonna wear? Are all these little decisions that we have to make so much through the day. You need to have that out of your brain as much as possible and already decided so that you don't have to waste your brain power doing these things. It takes a lot more willpower for us to do normal things compared to normal people. So we already have a limited amount of that, and then you add in this stupid decision fatigue of like having to decide really inconsequential things, and then you're just exhausted, okay? And then it just, the burnout cycle repeats. So making things easier for yourself when you know that you're not just gonna want to do it with your own willpower. Like with laundry, okay, I'm gonna do it at the same time every night. I go like Tuesday nights and I do laundry, and I go on that specific night because I know that there's the least people there on Tuesday nights. Nobody does their laundry on Tuesday nights. So instead of having to go in, check if the washers and dryers are open, they're probably not, then I go back and then I wait, I'm like, I don't want to do laundry, let me go eat, I'm really hungry. Go on Tuesday nights because I know that there's not going to be as many people there. And I know for a fact that I'm going to have a washer and dryer. It gives me less excuses to not do the thing, if you understand. And that's kind of my final tip, but the theme of this video is you are not stupid. I'm grabbing your shoulders, okay? This is the message. You are not stupid. You just need systems for your brain. You need to stop listening to what other people are telling you to do. And this is coming from somebody who was a productivity and self-improvement junkie for most of my life. I would just consume, study content, self-improvement, whatever. And I realized that the only ones that stuck with me were the ones that were oriented for my brain. Take it from people who have ADHD, who are thriving, who have careers in ADHD. I've connected with a lot of people in my career field who have ADHD, and they're even more open to help me because we have that like very similar way our brain works, and we kind of relate to each other in that way. Especially if you're in a culture like I am, I'm South Asian, and our culture doesn't really believe in mental health, or especially not ADHD, even though ADHD is so rampant in Indians. I don't know why. Stop listening to them. You know, let people have their own opinions, okay? Like my parents, they don't believe it exists. Now they're kind of on a different route because, you know, I got medicated, I'm doing better. But don't need to believe other people that what you've gone through is tough. I'm grabbing your shoulders again. Don't need to listen to anyone about how to operate with your brain. I hope this was helpful. This is kind of like the big sister advice I always wish I had, and this is kind of the spiel that I give to people who ask me about my journey with ADHD and kind of how to function, because I document that pretty openly online. And I know I already made an ADHD video, but I wanted to make another one just to kind of go over some specific tips that I think will help, and more of just, you know, not just my journey, but actual practical tips. That's more than buy a planner. Don't buy a planner. You're not gonna use it. You're gonna write down 10 tasks to do and you're not gonna do any of them, and you're gonna feel like you suck, and then that cycle's gonna keep going. Google Calendar, assignment tracker, the most basic organizational things. You don't even need a physical thing. Just have everything be easy. I hope you're doing okay. And there's hope, and there's a lot of really cool things about you. I'm rooting for you. If no one else understands you, I understand you, okay? And you got this. So I hope this helped.